All right, so have you seen, those drone things?
The drone.
Yeah, the drones over New Jersey.
Yeah.
Like massive industrial-looking thing.
Yeah, I saw that.
Just hovering there for days.
No explanation. Yeah.
Makes you wonder, right?
Yeah, it's creepy.
It's creepy.
Yeah.
Definitely eerie, and like whenever there's just a void of information, speculation fills it right up.
Totally. Like the Twilight Zone theme should be playing.
Yeah, exactly.
And one of the theories I've heard
Oh, yeah.
that's bubbling up is this Project Bluebeam.
Uh-huh.
Now, I've heard this one whispered in the dark corners of the internet, but to be honest with you, it always seemed a little too X-Files for me.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's definitely a wild one. We're looking at this straight from weiwat's The W Files blog and YouTube channel,
Okay.
which does a great job kind of pulling together the various threads of this theory.
So break it down for me. What is Project Bluebeam?
Essentially, it's a theory that some powerful, shadowy entity, maybe a government, maybe a secret organization, is planning to stage a fake alien invasion. A fake alien invasion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I am intrigued, but also a little skeptical. Why would anyone go through all that trouble to pull off something like that?
Well, the theory claims it's all about establishing a new world order. You know, single global government, single religion, the whole shebang. Think of it like someone hitting the reset button on society, like a cosmic control-alt-delete on civilization.
Wow, that's a pretty drastic reboot.
It is, yeah.
And where did this whole theory even come from?
So the origins can be traced back to a Canadian journalist named Serge Monist back in the 90s. He wrote extensively about this idea, and it's been circulating in conspiracy circles ever since.
So we've got a journalist from the 90s predicting a fake alien invasion to usher in a new world order.
That's the gist of it.
And somewhere in all of this, we've got those creepy drones over New Jersey. How exactly do they fit into the picture?
Well, that's where Monist's 4-stage plan comes in.
Okay.
While he didn't specifically mention drones, some of his steps, in light of our current technological advancements, seem almost prophetic.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are these 4 steps to global deception?
So the first step is all about shaking the foundations of faith. Imagine for a second that some major archaeological discovery is revealed, something that completely contradicts the core beliefs of major religions.
Okay.
Maybe an earthquake unearths ancient artifacts that rewrite history as we know it.
Whoa. That would definitely throw things into chaos.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny you mentioned rewriting history. It makes me think of that quote from Orwell, "Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past."
It's all about control, right? And if you can make people question their fundamental beliefs, you create a vacuum that can be filled with something else.
Okay, that's a little unsettling, but I see the logic.
Yeah.
So step 1 is undermining faith. What's next in this grand scheme?
Step 2, the holographic spectacle. This is where things get really interesting.
Okay, let's crank up the Twilight Zone music. I'm ready for the spectacle.
Imagine this. Using advanced technology, they project massive, culturally specific images onto the sky. Think a giant holographic Jesus appearing over Rio de Janeiro, or a luminous Buddha hovering above Tokyo.
Whoa, that would be insane.
Right.
I mean, we've got drone light shows at concerts and sporting events, but this is on a whole other level.
Exactly. It's taking that concept and amplifying it to a global scale. And, you know, those drones over New Jersey, what if they were a test run for this kind of technology?
Okay, now those drones are starting to feel a lot creepier.
All right.
It's like someone's testing out the special effects for a cosmic scale movie, and we're all just extras in the background.
Yeah.
All right, so faith is shaken. We've got holographic gods in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
What's step 3 in this journey to a new world order?
So step 3 delves into the realm of science fiction a little bit,
Okay.
but it taps into some of our modern anxieties about technology. It's the idea of telepathic, electronic, two-way communication.
Okay, hold on. Telepathic communication. Are we talking about actual mind control here?
That's the gist of it. Monists believe they would use things like ELF waves, extremely low frequency waves, to essentially beam thoughts and commands directly into people's minds.
ELF waves.
Yeah.
You know, that sounds a little like something out of Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that how Eleven communicated with the Demogorgon?
It definitely has that sci-fi feel to it, right? But it
Uh-huh.
plays on those real-world concerns about how technology can be used to influence us. Think about it. We've already got algorithms that can predict our behavior, target us with ads, even influence our emotions. Is it really that far-fetched to imagine those capabilities being amplified to a level where they could manipulate our thoughts?
I see what you mean. It's like those targeted ads that pop up after you've been talking about something, even if you haven't searched for it online. It's like, is my phone listening to me? It's creepy. It makes you wonder what's possible with technology that's beyond our understanding.
Exactly. And that's part of the appeal of Project Bluebeam. It taps into those fears we already have about the power of technology and the potential for it to be used against us.
Okay, I'm starting to feel like I need to put on a tinfoil hat. So we've got faith undermined, holographic gods in the sky, and maybe even a little mind control sprinkled in for good measure. What's the grand finale of this supposed plan?
Well, if the first three steps haven't brought humanity to its knees, step 4 is designed to be the knockout punch, the fake alien invasion.
Ah, yes, the piece de resistance. So how does this fake invasion play out? Walk me through it.
Okay, imagine this. You look up and there are massive holographic spaceships hovering over major cities. Beams of light streak across the sky. Maybe there are even simulated attacks on communication networks, plunging the world into chaos. It's a full-blown sensory overload designed to tap into that primal fear of the unknown.
So it's like War of the Worlds on a global scale, with a dash of Independence Day thrown in for good measure.
Exactly.
I mean, even if people knew it was fake, wouldn't that level of spectacle and fear be hard to resist?
Exactly. It's all about creating a global crisis, a sense of shared panic and vulnerability.
And then, conveniently, the powers that be swoop in to save the day, offering a solution.
Right.
Unity under a single controlling power, the New World Order emerges from the ashes of the fake alien invasion.
That's the endgame, according to the theory. But of course, the big question is there any actual evidence to support any of this?
Right. We've been down the rabbit hole of the theory, but now it's time to separate fact from fiction.
Yes.
Wait, what?
Are we really on the verge of a staged alien invasion, or is this just a really compelling science fiction story?
Let's put on our critical thinking caps and examine the evidence often presented by Project Bluebeam proponents. It usually boils down to a few key points.
Okay, let's break it down. Hit me with the first piece of evidence.
So the first one is the increase in UFO sightings we've been seeing, particularly those recent events over the U.S. Combine that with the government's tendency to be secretive about these kinds of things, and it's easy to see how some people might jump to conclusions.
Sure, I get that. I mean, the unknown always breeds a certain amount of suspicion when the government is involved. It's like throwing gasoline on the conspiracy theory fire.
Right, it feeds into that they're not telling us everything narrative. But here's the thing. UFO sightings, while intriguing, often have perfectly mundane explanations. We're talking weather phenomena, experimental aircraft, even things like drones or satellites that can be mistaken for something more extraterrestrial.
Oh, totally. I remember that time a few years ago when everyone was freaking out about a weird light in the sky over Los Angeles.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was all over the news, social media was blowing up, and then it turned out to be a publicity stunt for a new video game.
You see, it happens all the time, and as technology advances, we're likely to see even more objects in the sky that could be misidentified as UFOs.
Okay, point taken. So UFO sightings, while spooky, don't necessarily point to a government-orchestrated alien hoax. What's the next piece of evidence they typically bring up?
Well, they often point to the rapid advancement of technology itself. Think about it. We're living in an age of deepfakes, virtual reality, artificial intelligence that can write poetry and compose music. It's not hard to imagine how some people might think, hey, if we can do all this, what's stopping them from faking an alien invasion?
It's true. We've got technology that can manipulate reality in ways that would have seemed like science fiction just a few decades ago. I remember that time everyone thought Tom Cruise was deep-faked into that viral video.
Oh, yeah.
It was so realistic, and it showed just how easily our perception can be manipulated.
Precisely. But here's the crucial point. There's a massive difference between the technology we have now and the kind of tech needed to pull off something as complex and large-scale as Project Bluebeam.
Okay, so you're saying there's a difference between making a convincing TikTok filter and projecting a holographic Jesus onto the sky.
Exactly. To
Yeah.
create those kinds of global scale illusions, to maintain the clarity and the power, the sheer coordination, it would require, we're talking about a level of technological advancement that simply doesn't exist yet.
Plus, wouldn't something that big be almost impossible to keep secret? You'd think someone somewhere would have leaked something by now, right?
That's another key point. A project of this scale, with the level of resources and coordination it would require, would be incredibly difficult to keep under wraps. You'd have scientists, engineers, technicians, government officials.
Wait, what?
Someone would have talked.
Okay, so the technology argument is a bit flimsy.
Yeah.
What about that last piece of evidence you mentioned, the one about official statements?
Ah, yes. The ambiguous official statements.
Yeah.
You know, those vague pronouncements from government officials that can be interpreted in a million different ways.
Oh, yeah. I've definitely seen those press conferences where they dance around the question, leaving everyone more confused than before.
Right, and that's exactly what Project Bluebeam proponents latch onto.
Okay.
They take those vague statements often out of context and weave them into their narrative.
So it's less about what's actually being said and more about how it can be twisted to fit the theory.
Precisely, they're looking for those little sound bites they can spin into proof of a larger conspiracy. It's like that game we played as kids where you whisper a phrase around a circle, and by the time it gets back to the original person, it's completely different.
Totally. And that's part of the problem with misinformation in general. It's so easy for things to get distorted and taken out of context, especially in the echo chambers of the internet.
Exactly. So we've examined the evidence often presented for Project Bluebeam, and it seems to fall apart under closer scrutiny. But there's another aspect to this we need to consider. Why does this theory resonate with so many people, even if it's not based on solid facts? What is it about Project Bluebeam that captures the imagination, even if it might not be entirely grounded in reality?
That's a good question. I mean, it's one thing to debunk a theory, but it's another to understand why it took hold in the first place. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it taps into some very real anxieties we have, especially in today's world. For one, there's that technological anxiety we were just talking about. We're surrounded by tech that can manipulate reality. And it's not a huge leap to imagine that power being used for more sinister purposes.
You're right. It's like we're living in a Philip K. Dick novel.
Yeah,
Where the lines between reality and simulation are constantly blurring.
totally.
And when you combine that with the erosion of trust in institutions, it's no wonder people are looking for explanations.
Yeah.
Even if those explanations might seem outlandish.
Yeah, it's like that feeling you get when you watch a really good magic trick.
Right.
You know, it's an illusion, but there's still a part of you that wonders, what if?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's that allure of forbidden knowledge.
Oh, yeah.
Believing you're in the know,
Yeah,
that you've seen behind the curtain, can be a very powerful feeling.
it is, yeah.
It's almost like a badge of honor in some circles.
It's like being on a secret club, but the membership dues are your peace of mind.
That's a great way to put it. And I think that's part of the reason why conspiracy theories, even ones as far-fetched as Project Bluebeam, can be so seductive. They offer a sense of order in a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable.
Yeah.
It's like choosing the red pill over the blue pill, even if the red pill leads to a world that's more frightening than the one you left behind.
That's a great analogy. And it speaks to that human desire to find meaning, even in the darkest corners of our imagination.
Okay, so we've tackled the theory, we've debunked the evidence, and we've explored why it still resonates with people. But we haven't really talked about those drones over New Jersey.
Right.
If it's not Project Bluebeam, what are some more plausible explanations?
Well, there are a few possibilities that are worth considering.
Okay.
One is that it was part of the government testing program.
Okay.
The Department of Defense has been increasingly focused on countering unmanned systems.
Right.
And what better place to test out new drone defense technologies than a densely populated area like New Jersey?
Makes sense from a strategic standpoint.
Yeah.
You want to see how these systems perform in a real-world environment
Yeah.
with all the complexities of urban landscapes and air traffic.
Exactly. And remember, these kinds of programs are often shrouded in secrecy. It's not like they're going to issue a press release saying, hey, we're testing out our new anti-drone lasers over New Jersey this week.
Which, of course, just fuels the suspicion and speculation.
Exactly, yeah.
It's a vicious cycle.
It really is. Another possibility is that it was a foreign adversary.
Okay.
Flexing their muscles with drone tech. We've seen this happening more and more with countries like Russia and China developing increasingly sophisticated drone capabilities.
So it could have been a little show of force, a way of saying, hey, we've got eyes in the sky and we're not afraid to use them.
Right.
It's like a modern-day version of those Cold War spy plane flyovers.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that we're living in a multipolar world where technological advancements are not limited to any one nation.
Okay, so we've got government testing, foreign adversaries. What are some other possibilities?
Well, it's also possible that it was a private company testing out their new tech, maybe not even realizing the kind of panic it would cause. We're seeing more and more companies pushing the boundaries of drone technology, from delivery services to aerial photography to entertainment.
So it could have been less evil government conspiracy and more, oops, we accidentally freaked out the entire state.
It might seem less dramatic, but it's a real possibility, and it highlights the need for greater transparency and accountability in the private sector, especially when it comes to technologies that can have a significant impact on public safety and perception.
That's like that old Spider-Man quote, with great power comes great responsibility. And in the age of drones, that responsibility extends beyond just the government.
Absolutely. We need to be having these conversations about the ethical implications of these technologies,
Yeah.
both in the public and private sectors, before we find ourselves in a situation where we're reacting to a crisis rather than proactively shaping the future.
Okay, so we've explored a range of plausible explanations for the drone sightings, from government testing to foreign adversaries to private companies.
Right.
But there's one question I still have to ask.
Okay.
What about the possibility that those drones were, well, aliens?
Well, I suppose we can't rule anything out completely, but let's apply Occam's razor here. The simplest explanation is usually the correct one.
Right, don't overthink it.
Yeah.
So if we're going with the most likely scenario, it seems like those drones were probably terrestrial in origin. But the fact that so many people jump to the alien conclusion is telling, isn't it? It speaks to that underlying anxiety,
Yeah.
that sense that something strange and unsettling is happening in the world.
It definitely does, and it underscores the need for critical thinking, media literacy, and healthy skepticism we need to be able to sift through the noise, evaluate information from a variety of sources, and form our own conclusions based on evidence, not just fear or speculation.
It's like that saying, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And when it comes to Project Bluebeam, the evidence just isn't there.
Exactly, but even though we've debunked the theory, I think it served a valuable purpose in our deep dive today. It's forced us to confront our anxieties about technology, the erosion of trust and the spread of misinformation, and it's reminded us of the importance of critical thinking in a world that's increasingly saturated with information both real and fabricated.
You're right. Sometimes exploring the outlandish can lead us to some pretty profound insights. So to our listeners out there, the next time you see a headline that seems too crazy to be true, take a deep breath, put on your critical thinking caps, and ask yourself, what's the real story here?
And remember, curiosity is a good thing,
Yeah.
but skepticism is its best friend.
Well said. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and keep those minds open and engaged until next time.
Wait, what? Wait, what?